have something very special for you today. This is Caernarfon Castle, the most beautiful and impressive castle in the world, if you ask me. So while I give you the external tour, I'll also talk a little bit about the history and purpose of the castle. For many years, the Welsh princes had been paying homage to the English king, i.e. being his vassals of sorts. But Edward I, in mid to late 1200s, wanted more than that. He wanted to conquer Wales. Part of his strategy was to create a circle of castles in northern Wales that would resist most attempts from the Welsh to rebel. Basically, the notion is that while the Welsh would be battering his castles down, Edward would assemble an army and go and whack them. A strategy, by the way, that turned out to be very successful. Castles such as Caernarfon, Flint, Rhuddlan, Conwy, Beaumont are all created as part of this strategy. Eventually, the castles were successful. Wales was incorporated as part of England, also helped by the fact that the Stuarts ascended to the English throne and they were descended from Wales themselves. The purpose of the castles was twofold. In particular, Caernarfon. Caernarfon had this dual purpose of one, being a mighty fortress, near impenetrable, but secondarily it was also a royal palace. Edward I was so particular about it that he made sure that his first son, the future Edward II, was actually born in Caernarfon. And for many, many years, the English princes of Wales have had their coronation at Caernarfon Castle. Now, the latest one would be Charles, who is the Crown Prince of England, and I believe that was 1963 or thereabouts. And actually they had Caernarfon Castle decorated for this coronation for Prince of Wales, which in some ways can be seen as tradition, and in some ways it can be seen as a big FU to the Welsh. You were oppressed, you were part of England, and you were conquered. But, you know, enough of that. What I've been walking around here has been is the King's Gate. The King's Gate is the main gateway into the castle. There's a number of features like arrow slits, like murder holes you see here. There would be, I think, up to 6 portcullises and oak timber gates in the main gateway, and this is beyond what might have been a drawbridge out front, or might have been an easily disassembled stone bridge. What you see here in front of us is the Eagle Tower, the biggest of the towers in this construction, which by the way is quite special, but marks or is part of a transition from the traditional way of building castles, which was a concentric castle with a keep in the center and then outer walls, as for example Dover Castle, which I will link you to so you can see how that looked. But Dover is a traditional concentric castle. Caernarfon is not. Caernarfon consists of a number of large towers, drum towers, octagonal, which is kind of special, and they're all connected by walls. You can actually walk inside, and that means there is no single point that you need to capture to actually say you've captured the entire castle, because the enemy could just move within the walls from one tower to another if one was about to fall. So this is special and is part of a transition in Europe where this changes. Other than that, it's very traditional thinking with an aim to get as many cross-firing angles, as much flanking fire deployed as possible. And some historians say that actually Caernarfon Castle is one of the best equipped castles in Europe at the time. One goes so far as to say that the gatehouse, the King's Gate, is the most well-fortified gatehouse in all of Europe at this particular time. And look at that view from the top of the Eagle's Tower. The Eagle's Tower actually is named the Eagle's Tower because it had eagles on top of the parapets, small figurines, which again talks to the dual purpose of one being a fortress, two being a statement and a palace and something else. Something else that points at this dual purpose is what you can see in the walls, this banding, these different coloured stones, which has no defensive purpose whatsoever. This is pure decoration. It is yet another way of making this castle as impressive as possible. You saw the view there from the top of the tower all the way down. That's probably 50 meters or so. I have actually stood up there myself and looked down, and I can tell you I was probably not really relaxed about that. There's a far way down. There's actually so far down that a bow shot probably wouldn't hit anyone if you were to shoot from up there. So one could argue that those 3 top turrets on top of the Eagle Tower actually are mainly there for decorative purposes and for the purposes of being impressive more than actually being a defensive feature. Also, they don't, you know, seem very sturdy at all. So anyway, that was the Eagle Tower. There's the outer walls. And I found that zombies actually spawn inside my walls, which is a bit of a nuisance because they keep breaking stuff. So, there we are. Full frontal view of the entire castle. And you can see how, if you fill the moat with water, which it might have been at the time. Today actually there's just a ditch, but that ditch in itself is part of making the walls seem even taller. The walls, I think, are about 3 meters thick. I haven't tried to replicate the size of the towers. It's just prohibitive in terms of the amount of material I have to use. I have tried to replicate the height though. But let's see what an attacker would do if he's attacking the Queen's Gate. Now, assuming he makes it across the bridge, there's the murder holes up there, and he makes it into this courtyard where he's taking fire from there, and from the King's Gate, and from the tower, and the parapets, and the Queen's Gate, and the other tower, and actually doesn't really know where to go. There's no door inside, there's no keep inside. What's he supposed to do from here? All the defenders can just retreat out of the courtyard into the walls and into the towers, and he's just being shot at from all sides, not really having a good day. So attacking Dover Castle, as I showed you the other day, is a pain, but this castle is even worse because you don't know where to go once you get in. So let's have a look at how it might feel to attack the King's Gate. Now remember, 5 or 6 separate gates, right? Including the murder holes on top, and you have the counter-attack doors on the left and the right. I think they're called postern gates, but anyway, there's the murder holes. You've got hot boiling oil coming down there. You've got 5 or 6 longbowmen in here just hailing arrows on you, then closing the door. A very sturdy door, by the way. I had a look at it. Small frame, and made out of some really sturdy timber, iron banded timber. Not something you just break down. But anyway, assume you get through all of that, and you come into the courtyard. Oh, that tower looks menacing. That looks annoying, and that's the Eagle Tower over there. That's trouble. And I'm being shot at from there and there, and this is not a pleasant place to be. So let's assume the Eagle Tower, the biggest tower, is the keep. Let's storm that. Okay, so I'm now in the open, and I'm taking fire from inside the walls. And but anyway, let's assume that I actually managed to batter down the timber door of the Eagle Tower, which I can tell you is quite a solid door. Now, as soon as I come in, there's these small hallways left and right where the enemy can stack himself 5 abreast, and I'm just me. And if he's standing there with spears or longbows or whatever, you know, I'm taking a peppering, and this is just the ground floor. So anyway, let's go up a couple of levels and look at the defensive features up here. I haven't tried to replicate the spiral staircases, but as you can see, you can walk inside the walls. I forgot to put in a floor there, but anyway, you can take shots into the courtyard or out over the water. But I haven't replicated the spiral staircases that would be inside the Eagle Tower. And these would all be twisting towards the right, such that as an attacker that is moving upwards, your right sword arm would have a very hard time swinging, whereas the defender, who is not only above you but also right-handed, has a lot easier time being covered with the shield in his left hand and the sword in his right hand. Spiral staircases, really annoying for an attacker. So I'm taking a look at the walls here to see if there are any places where I can attack that I'm not taking flanking fire from multiple places. Well, I could attack this tower from the side, but one is there's a ditch that I need to climb over, and second is it's one of the corner towers, are probably one of the thickest places in the entire wall arrangement. In summary, it's safe to say that this would be a hard nut to crack for anyone. I hope you've enjoyed the show. I enjoyed making it, so until next time, stay frosty.